Pericles, why do most people have a negative relationship with money?
I think that there are many reasons, mostly from our childhood. We don't necessarily look, redefining wisdom. We're going to redefine how we relate to money and bring hopefully some wisdom to that conversation. Most people live in a generational mindset around money. In other words, they relate to money the way their families related to money, or the people who were around them related to money. Sometimes it can be community based, it can be family based, community based, it can be culturally based. So those dynamics are not necessarily something that we explore. We don't sit around and think about, well, how do I feel about money? How do I relate to money? What are my thoughts, feelings, and emotions around money? We just operate in life the way we operate in life. And so we need to start bringing, if we want to expand our relationship, bring some wisdom to our relationship around money, we have to start expanding how we think about it. We have to start bringing that critical thinking so that we can move to the next level and break those cycles of negative relationships to money. And kind of segueing off of that, it's the reason I do the work that I do. I created the distinction, our financial thermostat, because it gives us a way to relate to how we relate to money. So our financial thermostat determines how much money we can earn. It determines how much money of that we can keep. And it also determines our thoughts, feelings, and emotions around money. So much like a thermostat in your home, where it's set at 72 degrees, and this is undistinguished. We don't realize we have this financial thermostat or money mindset. If it's set at a certain level of money, we're never going to be able to make more money than that. If it's set at keeping a certain amount of money, we're never going to be able to save more than that. And the emotions around it, speaking to your question specifically, it's set at those thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So we're always going to have the same emotions around money, no matter how much we make or don't make. We're going to still be stressed. We're going to still have anxiety. We're going to still have frustration. Some people have joy and love and happiness and fulfillment based on that financial thermostat setting.
Okay, so it seems it seems like what you're saying is that pretty much everyone's financial behavior comes from or is influenced by their background, their upbringing, their personal history with money, all of that.
Yes.
But we are not aware of it, right? These are stories, is our own truth, is our own perception, is our own reality. Now, how can people become more aware of it, right? It's just finding the story in their head, challenge them, and change it. But more importantly than the story is the feelings around money.
Hmm. Yes, the first thing we want to do is stop and notice every time we're interacting with money, every time we're thinking about money, every time we're making financial plans. What are my thoughts? What are the normal feelings that show up? For some people, they'll start talking or thinking about money and they'll immediately start feeling dread. Okay, great. I notice that I'm having this experience of dread. I'm having this experience of regret, or I feel bad, or hopeless, or frustrated. Whatever that is, we have to stop and notice it. Because without noticing it, we can't do anything about it because it will continue to operate in the background. There are three things to do once we're in that place of recognizing it and now I want to change the behavior or I want to alter the way I feel about money. So first and foremost is noticing it. Now it could be a feeling, it could be an opinion, like money is bad, money is evil, people who have money are bad, I'm never going to have that much money. Those are all just thoughts that naturally occur from when we were growing up, those influences. We have to notice it immediately and say, oh, wow, there's that thought. And then the next step is really acknowledge that you have that thought. Okay, I've got that thought. I have that opinion about money. It's bad. Wow, I never really thought about it before, but I really think that money is bad. We have to own it. Kind of like people who are in recovery, the first thing you have to acknowledge is that you're an alcoholic, for example. I have to acknowledge and own that I have this negative thought about money. The next thing that you want to do is release it. We have to literally say, I release that thought, I release that opinion, I release that emotion, I let it go. I turn it over to a higher power, whether it's the universe or God or the trees, doesn't make any difference. I let it go and keep saying it until you feel a sense of release or a sense of peace. And then the third step is now in that empty space, create how you are going to relate to money. Create a new thought about money or a new emotion around money. And it can be something as simple as, I love money and money loves me. Money flows to me abundantly every single day. I feel joy and happiness every time I talk about or think about money. So it's a three-step process. We have to acknowledge and recognize and own. Then we have to release it and let it go. And then we replace it with something that's empowering. And when we do this ongoingly on a regular basis, you will start to notice that your relationship around money will shift and money will start to show up differently for you every single day.
You said a lot of insightful things right there. And yes, the self awareness, the noticing is step one. And I think that people every now and then struggle with that once they start being more self aware. You become, the easier it gets to notice those things. And I understand that. But let's say, and I think this is a part where most people struggle with, and even though they might know in theory what they need to do, is so hard to change. You might have people that live in the same story or lie that their brain created around them for 20, 30, 40 years, and then you expect to change within a day, within a week, within a month. It's just it's hardwired in your brain, and that change not only is uncomfortable because your body and your mind are so used to it, but then implementing a new code or just a new software takes time. And I feel that in many cases people lose faith or patience because they say, well, clearly it's not for me. Their identity is attached to what they believe. How do you help your clients or people that you coach to just separate themselves from the belief they have from their identity and implement a new one, and having the patience to stick to it?
Yes. The first thing that is almost the last thing you said is they have to separate themselves from that identity. Most people live in a world of my thoughts are who I am. And your thoughts are not who you are. Your thoughts are just random thoughts that are fired and wired together over the course of decades and decades and decades of living life experience. Who we are is actually the thoughts that we choose to focus on, the thoughts that we choose to create, and the actions that we take based on those creative thoughts. So that's where we start to separate ourselves out. And a lot of people get power from that. They live their whole life thinking I'm a bad person because I think X. Well, separate yourself from being a bad person and just someone who's thinking X. I have thoughts that go through my head all the time. I can't control those thoughts. I cannot control those random thoughts that show up. What I can control are the thoughts that I choose to feed, the thoughts that I choose to really focus on, and then the actions that I choose to take. That's what distinguishes us from just a pre-programmed set of neurons that are firing and wiring together over time. Now, once we start to do that, it isn't easy. For some people, it's more challenging than others. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to get into shape. That's challenging. We have to start eating differently, which is difficult. We have to start going to the gym, which is challenging. We have to start working out and building muscles that are, in some cases, haven't been worked out in years. And what is that? It's hard to do. And then we feel sore afterwards. So anything that's new, anything that expands our capacity is going to be a challenge. The question is, are you up for the challenge? Are you willing to go through that difficult time in order to get to the other side? Because it isn't about, this isn't for me. This is about, are you willing to do what's required to get where you want to be? And every time that you're feeling like, oh, I can't do this, you have somebody there to say, I get it. I hear you. You can do this. All you have to do is take the next step. All you have to do is take the next step. And it isn't about traversing a very long period, a long distance in a very short period of time. It's about taking incremental steps. If we choose to focus on a specific thing and change the conversation in a positive way every day in a new way, after a period of time, we're going to look back and it's like, wow, look at my life. I'm a whole different person. Just takes that one step at a time, and having somebody around you who can impact you and elevate you and support you when we're at that place of, I can't do it. It's like having a great trainer. Yes, you can. I hear you. Let's go. I'm right here with you.
I like what you said there because this, even though we're talking about money and things around money, it can apply to every single aspect of your life. Your self worth, your self esteem, your confidence when it comes to getting a new job or getting into a new relationship is challenging those stories to just identify with the thoughts you want to identify with, and basically keep doing that for an extended period of time until you build. It's not only believing it. I think it's the critical part is actually feeling it, because you might think something, right, that it could be accurate or not. If I think the sky is green, I know the sky is blue, but I don't feel anything about it. But then if I feel I'm worthy, if I can think about it, but then if I don't feel it, there's not a connection there. So it's just doing it for an extended period of time until you feel worthy. Speaking of worthiness for a moment, I hear that people say, or that you get what you deserve, right? You get paid what you deserve. And for many people, it's hard to wrap their minds around this concept. And they're afraid to ask for more than they think they deserve. How can people break this habit? Because at the end of the day, it's like, well, how do I know how much I deserve to begin with?
Yes. So there are two things that I want to address. The first one is the first thing you said, and I'll come back to the deserving, what we deserve around money. And that was the oh, and I've lost it now. So we're going to go to the why I deserve. Sorry, there's so many things going through my head. Sometimes I lose track of it. So the deserving. This is, oh, I remember what it is now. So there's a parallel between money and how we relate to money and how we relate to every aspect of our lives. That's why I say that it's not just about creating a new relationship with money, also yourself. Because when we start to relate to money in a different way, we start to relate to ourselves a different way. When we start to relate to ourselves a different way, we start to relate to everything a different way. And I like to equate that relationship to money to a relationship with a significant other. Most of us don't think about money in the same way we would think about a husband or a wife or a spouse or a significant other. We just treat money as an object. Like it needs to be there when I want it. I never have to appreciate it. I never have to thank it. I just want it when I want it, and it needs to show up when I need it. And I never got enough of it, and all those kinds of thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Well, imagine if you treated your significant other the same way. How do you think that relationship would go? It wouldn't go very well. They would not be someone who'd want to hang out with you. They would not be someone who'd want to spend time with you. And that's exactly the same way we treat money. And money is going to act in the same way. So once we start to create this new relationship with money where we appreciate it, where we don't expect it to do something that it can't do, it can't provide, we know what its limits are. We know that all of our joy and happiness come from within us, not from money. If you think you're going to get into a relationship so you can finally be happy, you're destined for failure, because another person is not going to bring you true happiness. They may bring you happiness in the moment. You may have fun being with them and find joy and happiness, but true joy and happiness comes from within. It's the same thing with money. Most people think, or many people think, once I get a certain amount of money, I'll be happy. I promise you, if that's what you think, you're never going to achieve happiness. I have worked with billionaires who are billionaires on the Forbes list, and I have watched them interact with money. I've watched them in their lives, and not all of them, but some of them are miserable. No matter what they're doing, whether they're sailing on a private yacht or flying first class or on a private jet, there's always something wrong. There's always something not right about it, and they're miserable. It isn't the money that brings happiness. happiness comes from within. So find that source of happiness, find that source of satisfaction, fulfillment, and enough. And then when the money comes, it'll be like icing on the cake, kind of like finding that significant other who you love being with. That's just icing on the cake. Great. Now you have someone to share this joyous life that you have. So don't put on money things that it can't provide. Now, going to the self-worth and what your own worth is, that all comes from that dynamic relationship. Who are you? Are you truly happy with who you are? Are you satisfied with who you are? Are there negative thoughts about yourself, diminishing thoughts about yourself that you have? Apply that same three-step process. Acknowledge it and own it, release it and let it go, and then create a new thought in its place. And have that new thought be the thing that you pull towards you every single day. I am worthy. I am loved. I am someone who makes a difference in the world. And then watch for the evidence of that to show up in your life, because it will show up. It's always been there. We've just kind of negated it because we're not looking for it. And that's where that self-worth will start to show up. And then suddenly you're going to be able to say, yes, here's my rate. It's $200 an hour. It's $1,000 an hour. It's $5,000 for this project. And all those old thoughts will start to show up, but they'll just kind of disappear. And you'll be able to stand in that power of, yes, I am worth this.
That's an interesting point, because I feel that even though, from my personal experience, my relationship with money is kind of interesting, because it's not, my parents are entrepreneurs, and it's not that we were middle class. Never had this relationship with when it comes to money, that I'm missing money, or just I need more money, or or we need to save every single penny. But there was a sense of being frugal in my family. And there was a sense of spending money on things that were valuable. But at the same time, even though I'm not feeling like, oh, I need to work 12, 14, 16 hours a day just to get more money, more money, more money. And even though I'm aware that it's easy, not easy, but a lot of people, almost everyone, can attract money, can create money, can be successful from a wealth point of view. Even though I know that is a reality, it is hard sometimes for me to envision that I can get it. Is from the knowing to how to do it. Is that gap that is almost like, if I want to run a marathon, and I'm on the couch, I've never run even a mile in my life, thinking, from going from a mile to 26, that is a big gap. I don't even know how to do it. I know that it's possible, but I don't know how. Have you experienced that with clients when they have a more positive relationship with money, but they don't know how to transform transform that into a place where they can attract it?
Yes. It's because we get what we focus on. And what the focus becomes is, I don't know how. I want more money, but I don't know how. And that's where the whole game gets lost right there. It's whether you're talking about Abraham Hicks and manifesting the law of attraction, when people are doing the work to manifest, and they're meditating or doing whatever that work is to manifest, and then that little thought pops into their head of, I don't know how. That's where the block is, right there. And there's this distinction around money that I've created, I want to share with you and your audience right now, because it will, I think, illustrate this a little bit better. Money is a currency, and as a currency, it flows like a current, like water or electricity or wind. Now, it flows in a distinct way. In other words, it flows in a circle, and we intersect that circle. So it flows to us, through us, and away from us, and then back around to us, through us, and away from us. And there's a reservoir on the side that we get to keep. Now, because it flows in a circle, a block anywhere in that flow is a block everywhere in the flow. So we all have blocks in the flow of money coming to us and blocks in the flow of money going away from us. And we have to distinguish those blocks and clear them so we free up that flow of money. So a block in the flow of money coming to us can be something like, I don't know how. I hate my boss. The wealthy are evil. Money is evil. Those are all blocks in the flow of money coming to us. And we have to notice those blocks and then clear them using that 3-step process I gave you earlier. And then the same thing with money flowing away from us. That's like, I never pay my bills on time. I have the money, but I'm just not going to pay them. They're big corporations. I don't need to pay that bill on time. Or I just don't want to pay it on time. I'm going to make them wait. Or I hate paying taxes. All those I'm just a money hoarder. I never let it go. Those are all blocks in the flow of money going away from us, which ultimately impacts money flowing to us. And at the end of the day, that reservoir on the side that we get to keep. So that thought of, I don't know how, is a block in the flow, and it will literally impact our ability to create the kind of money or manifest the kind of money that we want. Same thing with, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. It'll never happen to me, right? When we are in that moment of manifesting, that little thought that's there, if we just ignore it, it's then going to stop that flow. That's why Abraham Hicks says we have to allow. That's what they're talking about when they say we try to manifest, but then we have to allow it. Well, what does that look like? We get to that place of manifesting. I'm going to manifest more money in my life. I don't know how. Okay, I hear that. I can own that I have that thought. I'm releasing that I don't know how. I'm letting go of that. And here's what I'm putting in its place. Opportunities to make more money show up everywhere in my life every single day. Now, the final piece to this is watching for and seeing every opportunity for money to show up in our lives. And that includes a penny on the ground. Oh, well, I never pick up money off the ground. Great. What you're telling the universe is you're not really interested in more money coming into your life because you're saying no to that penny. $1 is made up of 100 pennies. Well, if we can't honor, respect, and appreciate the part of the whole, how can we expect more of it to show up in our lives? It would be kind of like saying, going back to my relationship analogy, it would be like saying, I hate my partner's hands. They're so ugly and hideous. I just don't want to look at them. Why do you think your significant other is going to feel about that? They're not going to want to be around you. It's the same thing for money. So any opportunity for money to show up in your life, notice it, acknowledge it, appreciate it, and look at the opportunity. Pick up the penny. I have a jar in my house, a vessel in my home that's my found money. One year I found almost $800 in found money in the course of 365 days. That's because I'm open to it showing up anywhere and everywhere in my life.
You said a lot there, and two
I tend to
main.
talk a lot. I'm
By
sorry.
the way, no. By the way, I love it because it is very. I can absorb a lot of information, and two main points that you made: manifestation and blocking, and the fact that you went into details on each one makes it even more insightful. But from a manifestation point of view, for many years I struggled with the concept of a manifestation. I didn't know exactly what it was. To me, it's like, okay, what is the difference between manifesting and daydreaming? And manifesting and being delusional about what my future might look like. And then I realized just recently that it was mostly about you can think about it, but you need to feel that it's possible. Or you need to feel that you're living there. And then the coincidence or opportunities will show up in your life that you can take advantage of. But before we go into the blocks we have and clearing them, how do we get into that vibrating frequency that allows to attract that what we want? I mean, the thinking versus the feeling, the mind versus the body.
Yeah. It's all about the feeling, and I think the distinction between daydreaming and manifesting is very simple. When we're daydreaming in a box of, yeah, but it's never going to happen. It's really nice to fantasize about, it's never going to happen. And it's never going to happen is that block. That's that box that keeps it from actually manifesting in our lives. When we're truly standing in, I'm going to manifest, whatever it is I'm going to manifest, we're connected to our heart center. We're connected to our higher self. And then we start vibrating at a different frequency. And when we allow it in by really knowing that I can manifest. Look, the universe can manifest anything in our lives. Anything can, and I've got examples of it. I was talking to somebody a month or so ago about the distinction of clearing blocks in the flow. And right after our conversation, she reached out and told me this later on. She said, I knew I had this doctor's bill that I hadn't paid. I hadn't paid this doctor bill. I didn't want to pay it. I just resented the fact that I had to go to the doctor and pay this bill, etc. And I sat down and I paid it. And as soon as I paid it, I thanked him, like from my heart. I thanked him for the service that he provided me. And I thanked the money for being able to allow me to pay for this service. And within 5 minutes, somebody went online and bought one of my online programs that I hadn't even thought about in months. It's that kind of allowing, that clearing of that block and allowing money to flow in our lives. It can happen that fast. Now, it doesn't always happen that fast, but it can happen that fast. And we want to be watching for it the moment we start standing in that manifestation. It's the same in all areas. It's the same thing with love. People say, I want more love in my life. But okay, well, are you showing love for other people? No. Great. You're blocking the flow of love going away from you. So it's blocking it coming towards you. Well, I want more love in my life. Well, who's expressing love in your life? Well, they are, but I don't like them. Well, you're blocking love coming into your life. So of course, the universe isn't going to provide you with more love. So where is love showing up in your life that you're stopping it, not allowing it, or joy or happiness or laughter? All the same vibration. Start to feel it. Start to feel what it would be like to have that kind of money in your life. Start to experience that vibrational frequency and then go through your day inside of that vibrational frequency. And that vibration will start to attract similar vibrational frequencies because likes attract. And the more we feel that way, the more we're vibrating in that field, the more we're going to experience it. It's the reason we see people who just seem to have horrible lives. Horrible things happen to them all the time. And they're always, just everything horrible. Well, that's because the vibrational frequency that they're kicking off is bad things happen to me. I remember my mother said that once, and I picked it up very quickly. It's always something. It's always something. I let that go right away because I see people all the time say, well, it's always something. They'll make a whole bunch of money, but then something will show up and that money has to go out to, it's always something. Those are the kinds of blocks that stop that vibrational frequency in its tracks and create a different one. The vibrational frequency of it's always something, or I can never get ahead, or I'm not worth it. Those are all vibrational frequencies that become the dominant frequency that we live inside of. When we shift that to a new dominant frequency, suddenly life changes, and it can change in an instant.
Yeah, I felt call out a couple of times there, but because I used to be that way, I'm trying to change that part of about myself. One of the things when you said at the very beginning when it comes to manifestation is it's like, okay, I'm daydreaming, I'm imagining this, but it's not possible. I used to feel that way because it's almost like the higher your expectations, the more pain you feel when it doesn't happen. So to me, I
Mm,
adopted this mindset that been hard, been taking some time for me to change is keep your expectations low, and you'll never be disappointed. So
mm,
if I'm already getting ready that okay, I might be dreaming about this, but deep inside I know it's not gonna happen. Then when it doesn't happen, it's like I was expecting that. See, I don't get that pain
yeah,
from being at the top of the building and then just fall flat on my face. So,
yeah,
so that was one thing that again you're rejecting. You're just not believing that you're deserving or that it's never gonna happen.
yep.
When it comes to the thing of well, it's always something that
Mm,
happens. I had a period of my life where every 3 or 6 months I would just get a a challenge, right?
mm,
For, from life, and I was like, man, can I catch a break for at least a few months? Come on now, just
mm,
every time something bad would happen to me or something negative, I would instead of accepting and learning and figuring it out, it was mostly that mentality, that mindset. It's like, when can I catch a break? And I
yes,
think that is important when you're mentioning people suffering. If you focus on the negative side, if you focus on things that affect you, you're kind of attracting that. but it's hard when you live in that survival mode that I'm lacking money, I'm lacking friendship, I'm lacking X, Y, and Z. It's tough, man. It's tough.
And it's the conversation that it's tough that makes it tough and manifests more toughness. There, look, we all live in a world where we don't know all the things that we come in contact with every single day. We could have a flat tire, the car could break down. It's how we relate to those things that impacts the future of more of those things coming up. I've had some things that would be considered tragic and devastating happen in my life. I don't then shift and say my life is tragic and devastating. I just have it that this is part of life. Does it mean I have a lousy life? No, I have an extraordinary life, and I'm dealing with something in it right now that I need to deal with. And it's maybe challenging, but it's not the focus of my life. I'm just taking care of business. And all of the things that I have in my life, I bring along with me. See, a lot of times people will say, well, I just need to stop my life and I need to focus on this. I just need to stop everything and deal with this. Well, you've just interrupted and blocked the flow of everything that you're creating in your life in that one moment, that one declaration. We have to be really aware of the language that we use, because that language immediately creates a reality. My life sucks. That's a reality that you've just created. I'm stupid. Boom, there's another reality we've just created. Versus, I have an extraordinary life and I'm dealing with this thing right here, but I have this amazing life that I'm living. And these are all elements of that life. I didn't understand how to deal with this, and now I'm going to figure it out. Very different way of saying I'm stupid, right? We're not stupid, but we keep saying it over and over and over again. Those neural pathways get built, and suddenly we're pressing A4 on the jukebox. I'm dating myself now, but that jukebox, and then we're just playing the same tune over and over again. We're playing the same tune. We're feeling the same vibrational feelings and frequency, and so we attract more of it. That's why we need to notice it. If we want to shift it, notice it. Own it, then let it go and create something new, because that new vibrational frequency over time becomes our dominant vibrational frequency. And suddenly that's the life we live.
Yes. One thing, by the way, that you said there when it comes to my life sucks, I'm stupid, yada, 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 all these things, those thoughts, those feelings, most humans experience it, if not all of us at some point.
Yes.
And it's much easier to live in those thoughts and to experience those negative emotions than it is to build the positive ones. And I'm in a journey now where I'm trying to change that, uh, not only the mindset but the feeling around it. When I can try, I'm trying to tell myself the things I'm thankful for. You know, I can do something that I love. I'm able to run, to exercise, to have a house, to eat, all of this. But even though I mentioned those, I don't have the positive feelings and emotions, because most of us are not used to emotions like joy, happiness, or gratitude, where we don't know how to experience that, and it takes time. And I think what happens, at least from my point of view, is, or from my experiences, after we try it a few times, it's like, no, it doesn't work. But as we mentioned earlier, you have to build that muscle, and once you do, I guess you start seeing more opportunities and you start feeling better. Even when you face challenges, you can try to find the positive thing from it and learn, rather than only focusing on the negative ones.
Yes. And I will share this with you because I think it will impact why we suffer. And you were saying it earlier about, well, I create these goals, but I don't want them too high because I don't want to fail and then be disappointed. So I'll set a really low bar. And then when it doesn't happen, right, that kind of mindset leads to suffering. So here's what happens in many cases. We're only in one place ever in the world, and that's right here in the present. We're never in the future, and we're never in the past. We're only ever in the present physically. Now, where we are mentally, that's a whole different story. We can be in the present, but thinking about something that happened in the past and beating ourselves up over it. And I wish I hadn't done that. And if I had just done this. And what we're doing is we're fighting with ghosts from the past. And we're never going to be able to change that past. But we're in the present suffering because of something that happened in the past. Or there's something in the future that we're creating, or something in the future we're afraid of happening. And we're in the present, but we're focused on that future. Oh my God, what if this happens? Oh my gosh, what if somebody does this? Oh my gosh, blah, 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 all those things. And we're suffering in the present because we're fighting with ghosts in the future that don't exist yet. When we let go of that and we get fully vested in the present, we can start to get present to any future possibility, any future manifestation. Now, here's the key. I want to make whatever the number is for you. If it's $1,000, $1 million, $100 million, that's what I want to manifest in my life. It's important for us to have that out there as something that we wake up in the morning. That's what we're creating. But we can't be in the present saying, but I don't have it right now, so I'm suffering. That's again where suffering occurs. We want to stay present in the moment with that future that's exciting, that's kind of like, wow, this is what I'm manifesting. But right now, where am I? I'm right here in the present. I'm having this conversation with you. I'm having this generative experience where we're kind of communing together about what wisdom is, redefining our relationship with money. And that's exciting. And I love that. And that's where life occurs. It's the only place where life occurs. We suffer when we get lost and we start fighting with things from our past, or suffering over or worrying about things from our future that haven't happened yet, or that we want to happen. And I need it to happen today. Instantly, we've blocked all that manifestation, and we put ourselves in this box of, well, it's never going to happen, or it needs to happen the way I want it to happen, and it needs to happen right now. We're not experiencing being present in the moment. There's a great book by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. I highly recommend it to anyone that's looking at or dealing with something that's happened in the past, or something that they're worried about in the future. It's really, really empowering. So that's something that I think anyone, in an instant, all that suffering goes away when we're present in the moment. Because in the present moment, all there is love. All there is joy. All there is the power of life happening right now.
I can testify the amount of suffering that we experience when we live in the future and in the past. I've experienced it myself. It's been harder for me. It's been quite hard for me to stay in the present moment, but I'm trying to have that as a daily challenge and goal, staying in the present. And yes, we suffer more in our heads than in reality. We have all these scenarios, all these things that we already feel the pain today that we think that we might experience tomorrow, next month, or next year. Now, in your practice, when you coach people, do people, especially when they have these blocks, are people having more blocks because they are afraid of failure or afraid of success?
Interesting question. And it's distinct for each person. A lot of times people are afraid of success. And the reason they're afraid of success is because they don't know that they can handle it. They don't know that they have the capacity to deal with and manage whatever that success may look like. Oftentimes, though, underneath all of that, it really is that conversation of, you're really stupid. You're really not smart enough. People are going to discover that you're a fraud. You're not pretty enough. You're not handsome enough. All those kind of negative things that are, again, in the background from when we've been, when we were children, when we were raised. It all impacts that. The one great one from my life that I love sharing is when I was probably 6 years old, and my family and we were watching a show at the time that was very popular called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And it was always like how their lives were terrible, right? And at the end of this episode, where they would show this family that had all this money and their lives were horrible, my mom says, just nonchalant, just off the cuff, says, I never want to have that much money. You lose your whole family. And in that moment, I didn't know it, but in that moment, what got programmed in that 6-year-old boy's head is you can never make too much money, because if you do, you're going to lose your family. And I loved my family. I didn't want to lose my family. Now, this is all happening on a subconscious basis level. I'm not thinking about it, right? I'm not cogitating on it or analyzing it. It's just got programmed in there. And so there were years where I was bumping up against the ceiling of, I just can't get to the next level of income. And then when I started doing this work and I started working on this education, I noticed that conversation. And in that moment, I was able to use that 3-step process and let go of it. And suddenly that ceiling got shattered and there were no limits to what I could earn. There were, based on what I want in my life, what I need in my life, all things that are by design, but that default limitation was removed. And suddenly I was able to accomplish the kinds of things that I really wanted to accomplish in my life when it came to earning money.
Going back to the point where people feel, I don't know if it's most people or definitely a significant percentage of people feel that money is evil, money is bad, and all of that. Is it possible that the main reason why people feel that, again, money is bad, is the root of all evil, is because they believe they can't have it? So they resent those who do, because I think it's far easier to convince yourself that money is bad rather than accepting that it's your own fault. And that brings a lot of shame.
Mm. Yeah, and shame is on the lowest rung of negative emotions. It is if someone is feeling shame or someone is trying to shame you, you want to just let go of that. There is nothing positive that will ever come from feeling shame. Now, I can regret an action that I took. I can say, you know what? I shouldn't have done that, but I will let it go, and immediately I will clean it up with whoever I need to clean it up with and then move on with my life, because living in that place is never going to elevate you. It's never going to get you to the next level. So just kind of like a little side note on shame. The what was the other thing? Sorry, my mind is just going in a
No,
million different
no,
places.
yeah.
When you'd said
I
something that was really interesting that I wanted to focus in on. Please say it again.
Oh, I hear you, mate. My mind works the same way, and it's hard to stay on track with in my own mind. No, I was just wondering if it's possible that people who think that money is bad is because they resent those who have it, and it's far easier to convince yourself and tell yourself the story than to accept that it's your own fault that you don't have enough.
Yeah.
Because once you accept that, then it's my fault. Then I'm ashamed of that. I'm embarrassed because I cannot produce or create that kind of money.
Right. I think there are many reasons. So we can look and see evidence that there are people with money who do evil things. They do bad things, right? And it's easy for us to then label that as the money. Right. And then of course they're well, I can't make it. So, maybe it is because it's evil and God doesn't want me to have it, or some other outside entity doesn't want me to have, whatever that may look like. Money is just paper. It's just metal. Money is this object, right? Now, do I think it's a universal band of energy? Yes, there's a whole distinct way in which money flows in our lives. But money is not good. It is not bad. It is just money. Our personality traits, our personal ways of operating in life are amplified by money. So if you're somebody who's good, somebody who truly embraces being a good person, and more money comes into your life, it will amplify that goodness. If you're someone who has a tendency to do bad things, to be cruel, to be bad, to break the law, money will simply amplify that. So if you're concerned about, am I going to be an evil person if I get money? Well, look to see, are you an evil person now? Are you someone who does bad things on purpose? Making a mistake is a completely different thing. We all make mistakes. We say the wrong thing. We do the wrong thing. We make an error. We clean it up. We acknowledge it. We own it, and we move on. But if you're someone who is cruel, by default, and you embrace that being cruel, you get joy out of that being cruel, having more money is just going to amplify that. But if you're somebody who's truly good, if you're somebody who truly wants to do good, money will amplify that. So you never have to worry about money making you evil or making you good. It will simply amplify who you already are. So own that and then own who you are. And look, do we have thoughts that sometimes can be cruel or bad or evil? Yes, we all have those thoughts. What are the thoughts that we focus on and feed? And what are the actions that we choose to take? That's what defines us as human beings, not those random thoughts that pop into our heads. So allow yourself the freedom to know who you are will simply be amplified by whatever amount of money comes into your life. And then allow that money to come into your life if you want it to come into your life. If you don't, great. Look, I know lots of people who have very little money and they're completely fulfilled, satisfied, and happy in their lives. It's not the money that brings joy and happiness. That comes from within and our connection with our higher self.
Yeah, a lot of people believe, as you mentioned, that money change people. Well, as you said, it only amplifies who you are. If you're selfish, you're going to be more selfish. If you're generous, you're going to be more generous. If you're evil, it's going to increase that. But I will say, and this is where people get it wrong, is that it won't change you, but it will probably change people around you for sure, because people start feeling some kind of jealousy or just some kind of interest on you, and you need to learn how to distinguish that between, hey, it's not going to change me, but other people around me, and I need to be aware of that. I can still attract it and I still deserve it, but also be aware of who is in my surrounding as well.
Absolutely. And that's all you. That's all on you. What are you going to surround yourself with? Are you going to surround yourself with people who want to get your money, want to separate you from your money, want to be in that sphere of money simply for the money? And they'll say anything to you to make you feel good so that you'll give them money or maybe give them whatever it is that they want from you? Or are you going to surround yourself with people who are truly there to elevate you, that are going to tell you the truth? They're going to say, Pericles, that is not the right thing to do. Look at what you're saying. You're stepping out of your lane. You are doing something that's inconsistent with who you are. Wow, you're right. Thank you for calling me out on that. I appreciate it. Or are you going to surround yourself with yes men and yes women? And we see it all the time. We see sometimes people who have extraordinary amounts of money and they surround themselves with people who are just willing to say whatever that person wants to hear. And then we get the sense of, well, I can do no wrong. I'm brilliant. Look, everybody around me says I'm brilliant. No, you're not brilliant. Just because you made a lot of money doesn't mean that you're suddenly an expert in any area of your life, and whether it's politics or business or relationships or whatever it may look like. And we see examples of that frequently. Somebody who, for whatever reason, makes a lot of money in one area of their life, and now they think that they can speak about all different topics simply because they're wealthy. That's not true. But again, that's money amplifying their own personality traits and the traits about them that they're willing to feed. And then it's kind of like this avalanche. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it gets out of control. And then they become people that we look at and say, what are they doing? What are they saying? You never have to worry about that if you stay true to yourself.
100%. And not only staying 100% true to yourself, but also knowing exactly who you're surrounded with and surrounded with the right people. Again, I never understood those who, whether they had money or not, that surround themselves with people pleasers, or those who say yes just to be part of the groups. Like, I want to be called out. I want to know if I'm doing something wrong and how can I change it? How can I fix it? But just touching a point when it comes to going back to deserving and knowing what to ask for, and things of that nature, one thing that I've always been fascinated to me is the world of public speaking. Because you can have, is keynote speakers that can make only a few $100 for an event or a gig, and on the other hand, you have other ones who get literally paid tens of thousands of dollars for I wouldn't say a similar event, but at the end of the day, you're just talking, you're just inspiring, you're just informing or motivating people. That to me is a very clear evidence as you get paid what you deserve. And for those people, it's just like, how can I go if I'm making 500 bucks, 700 bucks per event, which to me is like 200 bucks. I mean, making 700 bucks for a 2 hour event. Oh, that's a lot of money. But then I look at other people making 20,000 for a 5 hour event. It's like, how can I get there?
Yes. Yeah, and there is a process. I mean, there is experience that needs to be had. There's an expertise that needs to be gained before someone's going to look at you and say, "Yes, I'm willing to pay you $5,000 for that event." Now, does that mean you're not worth the $5,000 now? I don't know. Maybe you are, but we have to be realistic about who am I? Do people even know who I am? No, I've never heard of you before. You have no track record. You've done no social engagement. You've done no public speaking. You've got no education in that area, no life experience in that area. That's distinct because we have to get that education. We have to get that experience. We have to get whatever that life experience is to become that expert and then work our way up the rung. But it doesn't mean that you don't own your place, your role, your ability. I worked with a client a few years ago who was a PhD and a minister. So he was a PhD in American history and he was a pastor, and he kind of melded the two together to talk about American history as it related to religion and how both influenced the other and back and forth. And he was really, really smart, really, really well educated. And when we first spoke, he said, "Pericles, I just want you to know, I do not think my time is worth anything. I've never been able to charge. I do public speaking all the time, and I never charge a penny for it. And I just can't. And I need to get through that." Now, that's the important thing. He wanted to have the breakthrough. If you don't want to have the breakthrough, great. Just go the way you're going. That's fine with me. I don't have an opinion about that. But if you're committed to the breakthrough, then we can start having the conversations. And by the time I completed working with him, he was getting $1,500 for every 1 hour conversation that he would have. He didn't open his mouth unless he was getting paid $1,500 an hour. And then he landed a gig on a cruise line that works in the Mississippi, going up and down the Mississippi, talking about his area of expertise and getting paid to do it while being on a cruise all week long or all month long. So he went from, "I never get paid for anything and don't think I'm worth it," to, "I get paid $1,500 an hour to open my mouth," and working on a cruise line, talking about what he loves, getting paid for it, and being in an environment of being on a cruise every single day. That's the power of shifting where your thought process is, where those blocks are, to opening those up so you can get what you're truly worth. Now, again, you have to have the experience. And I've worked with people who have multiple doctorates and they still don't think they have enough experience. I'm like, come on, that's a whole other mindset issue. Or people who think, I've lived through something. I've lived through something very challenging and I've overcome it. I've come through the other side. Now I want to help people. That's all the expertise you need. You don't need to go out and get a degree or a master's degree or doctorate or some other. No, you've got everything you need. You've got to own that. Now start doing the work and reach out, having conversations, start helping people, start charging whatever you're charging now, and then slowly increase it over time, knowing that the more you do, the more you're going to be able to charge.
I love that. And to add up on top of that, that is something that I've been struggling with is you don't have to do it alone, right? Find people that can help you get into that mindset. That is something that I don't know if it's just we men tend to do that more often or it's just a me problem thing. Is that I don't like relying on other people. I just like, okay, I'm going to push through. I can do it. I can do it. And it's like, the path would be much easier if you rely on others and if you find people that can help you build that mindset. Pericles, I've been enjoying this conversation a lot of insightful things, very thoughtful conversation how we can get our minds right, not only for money, love, and just have the abundance. But as a closing question, this is more like a technical thing. financial literacy is a huge issue in this country. What are the basics that people should learn about money and finances?
Yeah. We have to expand our own capacity to keep money. This is one of the biggest blocks that my clients bump up against. If one of the assignments I'll give them is, okay, I'm giving you $1 million. I'm giving you $1 million. It's free and clear, tax free, net, net, net. It's yours. What are you going to do with it? And almost always they start rattling off things. Okay, I'm going to buy a new house. I'm going to buy a new car. I'm going to go on a world cruise. I'm going to buy my mom a car because I love her, and probably buy my brothers and sisters cars and houses or whatever. And all they're doing is talking about how to disappear that money because their capacity to hold money is limited. Their financial thermostat is a very low setting for keeping money. So what I would say to anyone who is listening to this, who wants to expand your capacity around money, is do just that. We have access to so much information, so much education. What would you do if you were to get $1 million right now to leverage that $1 million to make more money? And the answer is not, oh, I'm just going to go get a financial advisor. That is one of the first things people say as well. So I'm just going to get I'm going to let somebody else handle it. Well, that would be like having a newborn baby and saying, you know what, I'm just going to go find somebody to take care of the baby. I'm just going to say, oh, they're supposed to be, great. Here's my baby. Take care of my. We would never do that. Why would you do that with something so important to you? Hand over the most important job with the most important thing to you, all that money, to someone you really don't know, and you don't understand what they're going to do with your money. Go educate yourself on what are the different things that you can do with money. And first of all, I want to say I'm not disparaging financial advisors. There are some amazing ones out there, but there are also people out there that are really interested in separating you from their money. They're not doing what's in your best interest. So you've got to do your research on who you're going to be working with. And then you need to understand everything that they want to do with your money and why. How much is it going to cost me? What are the risks? What are the rewards? And the only way to know that is by educating yourself, expanding your own capacity to understand and keep money. That way, you've got your finger on the pulse of what's happening with your money. What's going on with it? How much are you looking to make from it? How much will you make? And what's the risk around making that money? Once you have that, then you've got so much more power and freedom to do with your money what you choose because you've got an understanding around it. So expand your capacity. And you don't have to do this overnight. You can do this increments every day. Spend 5 minutes, spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes educating yourself around money. What would you do with that $1 million? How would you invest it? And what would the return on that investment be?
I love it. And more people should do that, should have that mindset of, let me learn how to manipulate, how to control, how to use the most important aspect of my life. It's the way that I live my life. It's not that money is the most important thing, but it gives you a quality of life. It can give you opportunities to your kids. It can give you pleasure with your significant other. It's what money allows you to have and to experience rather than whether you have it or not. And getting smart with your money it should be a top priority for anybody. So I definitely love that answer. Once again, love this conversation quite a lot. But where can people find you? Where can people work with you if they want to be coached and change their mindset around money?
Great. Yes, they can go to my website. I have two. They can go to periclesrellas.com or they can go to resetyourfinancialthermostat.com. They both go to the same place. I have a free a free mastermind that you can sign up for and watch. It's the 4 keys to resetting your financial thermostat. You can watch that, and there are other opportunities on there if somebody wants to take it to the next level and work with me. All of that is included in there.
Perfect. I'll add those to the video, show notes, and YouTube description. Pericles, was a pleasure having this conversation with you. And I felt that I learned a lot, not only from a money perspective, but from a mindset perspective as well.
Daniel, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I've absolutely loved this conversation, and I appreciate the work that you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.